Theme number 8: treating downsized employees humanely. Delivering life-changing news is never an easy task. Having the responsibility as a manager to tell an employee they are being laid off is no exception. Being laid off from an organization is traumatic and changes people's lives, whether for the better or for worse. Laid off employees should be treated with respect and integrity and be provided sufficient time and space to allow them to leave the organization with dignity. It is critical that the preparation, delivery, and actions taken after the information is communicated to the employee is done so in a humane manner. Managers play a part in whether they will be the next laid-off employee's story of the horror they experienced or the compassion they felt. Laid-off employees are not just a deduction to the organization's expense line. They are human beings with families, livelihoods, and feelings. Whenever possible, this should be considered. Min's story. T&T Restaurants has finally gotten something right, Min thought. He was manager for the team responsible for ordering the fresh food for New York's finest restaurants located in and around Manhattan. The rumor started a few months back, and employees of T&T Restaurants became a bit anxious whenever they attended a team meeting, or worse yet, a one-on-one with their manager. Earlier that week, Min had received the nod of approval to proceed with discussing the upcoming layoffs the company would experience and how it would impact his team. With the economic downturn earlier that year, as well as the impact of the recent drought along the entire West Coast, something had to give. Min's team was already small, so it was unimaginable their team specifically would be hit with layoffs, if that was a possibility. Min gathered his team first thing Thursday morning and began to discuss the changes. Due to the economic downturn, the cost of shipping had risen. In addition, the drought having an impact on the availability of many of the fresh produce items used daily in the restaurants. As a result, T&T Restaurants was faced with a choice: pay more for less produce or limit popular menu items. This is where Min felt like T&T got it right. The CEO, Mike Ketchnick, decided that because cutting menu items might negatively impact the customer experience, increasing produce costs would mean cuts needed to happen elsewhere in the business. It was a difficult decision to make, but one that was carefully thought through, with the impact not hitting one area more than another. Mr. Ketchnick let his management team, including Min, know the company would need to cut 2 popular items from the regular menu and offset the remaining 3 popular produce-heavy items by cutting headcount. This felt like the most logical decision, although it weighed heavily on Min's heart when he heard the news. Min gathered his team on a Thursday morning to share the news of the menu items being cut and the likelihood of layoffs. Cordelia was the first to ask Min a question after he spoke to the team. How hard will this impact our team? Will we lose our jobs? A great question and valid concern, Min thought. He advised Cordelia that the company was doing everything they could to figure out how to maintain a balance between customer experience and the ability to retain employees. At this point, he was unaware if or how many from the team might be directly impacted. He assured his team he would make them aware of any further news as soon as he knew. Thankfully, it was within 1 week that Min was asked for insight as to who in his team should be let go. The human resources representative advised Min that teams were viewing who goes and who stays based on performance. Within Min's team, this was a challenge, as he had several great employees. If he had to identify the lowest performer by ratings, it would have to be Shayna, due to an error on a large order and her 2 unplanned absences over the last 6 months. Min felt terrible, as he knew Shayna and her husband had 2 young children, although this was not something that he was able to take into consideration in determining who would go and who would stay. Min was trying to think of a way to help Shayna even before he had to have the discussion with her and reveal the news. He remembered Shayna had a real knack and enjoyment for photography. Over the last year, Shayna had started to book engagement, high school senior, and baby pictures on the weekends. A friend of Min's from college had his own photography business and studio, and he remembered seeing a note on his friend's Facebook page in the last couple weeks about needing a photography assistant. He decided he would reach out to him and see if the position was still open, in hopes that he could let Shayna know of the opportunity when they talked. Reflection questions. Would you have made the same decision as Mr. Ketchnick? Why or why not? If Min has options other than to use performance to determine who goes and who stays within his team, what other factors might he consider? What other options does T&T Restaurants have to maintain the produce expense and employees? Quote from Ryan Bingham's Up in the Air. We are here to make limbo tolerable, to ferry wounded souls across the river of dread until the point where hope is dimly visible, and then stop the boat, shove them in the water, and make them swim. Tips and best practices for treating downsized employees humanely. Number 1, do not treat downsized employees as if they are bad or tainted. In one of my prior experiences as a downsizing survivor, I remember the names of the laid-off employees being communicated internally in an email. It was difficult to carry on with any of them as if things were normal. Life in the organization was not normal at the time. There were employees who treated the laid-off employees differently, whether by avoidance or awkwardness in their conversation. When I think about it, I'm not quite sure if including the names of the laid-off employees in that communication was the right thing to do or not. In one respect, people knew who was affected without gossip or rumors, but it also felt like it put these individuals' names up in lights when all of them may not have wanted to have it so publicly known. Number 2, offer career search services if possible. Organizations may decide to provide resources such as career counselors, resume writing experts, networking meetings, mock interviewing opportunities, or access to internal computers and software for job searches and cover letter or resume writing. Assisting laid-off employees in their next career move is the right thing to do. This shows concern and support, as it is a good faith act to help the laid-off employee prepare for and hopefully find their next job. Providing this service to employees, whether through internal or external resources, is appreciated by employees when this type of support is provided. Number 3, make clear and organized information available regarding what will happen. Put yourself in the downsized employee's position for a few minutes and think about what those first few moments after getting the news might feel like. How well do you think your memory of all the information provided at that time might be versus when you are in a clearer state of mind? It is important to provide downsized employees with information in writing, typically within a packet, regarding next steps in the process, potential questions, options, etc. The information in the packet should be organized, relevant, and clear. Human resources should be available for downsized employees to ask questions after digesting the news and as they begin to review the information provided.